Good day and welcome back to the Vitality Project. I'm Dr. Bob and I really appreciate you joining me here today. Yesterday we asked ourselves to reflect on any connections that we could find between our feeling bad about ourselves as a function of shame and stigma, that's on the one hand, and on the other hand, our turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms to feel better or maybe to experience some sense of relief. Remember that we've discussed this, and that is that shame is the most painful human emotion. Is it any wonder, if you stop and think about it, any wonder at all that we'll do virtually anything just so we don't have to feel shame? It's so painful. You know, our talking about shame and stigma relates directly to our wanting to free ourselves from addiction. And we'll be talking more about this connection today in the next few days. If you think about it this way, if addiction equals enslavement, and remember that we've talked about this, that addiction derives from the Latin root word addictus, which means slave. So if addiction equals enslavement, then isn't it true that we all want freedom or liberation from that enslavement? If shame is the most stressful human emotion, and biochemistry, analyses of our bodies and brains have repeatedly proven this to be the case. Shame is the most stressful human emotion. And if stress is the #1 trigger for addictive behaviors, which has also been proven again and again in scientific studies, shame is the most stressful emotion, stress is the #1 trigger for relapse, then I think you can tell me the connection between shame and addiction. They're inseparable. In fact, that's at the heart of today's homework invitation. Our exercise today is I'm going to ask you in your own words to write down exactly how it is that you see shame, negative self-judgment, and stigma, negative judgment of us by others. So the first is judgment of ourselves. The other is judgment of us by others. I'd like to ask you to see, to write down, how do you see shame and stigma tying directly into addictions, and addictions of every kind, whether it's addiction to substance, to other counterproductive or problematic behaviors that we cannot stop, even attitudes that we get trapped in, for example, resentments, grudges, prejudice, reactivity. What may help most here in kind of sealing this connection that we're talking about is for you to dig down deeply inside and come up with your own personal example of how you've experienced shame feeding addiction in your own life. And then also, tragically, and I'd like to see if you can relate to this, how it is that addiction itself feeds shame, leading us into a vicious cycle that is both incredibly frustrating and also, unfortunately, is way too often actually deadly. So it is that shame leads to addictive behavior feeds further shame, which leads to further addictive behavior, and round we go. We'll be drawing in this understanding more and more comprehensively as we move towards our conversations in the next few days of looking at addictive triggers outside of us and triggers inside of us, and looking at how we can begin to root those out and manage them, minimize them, and ideally get our lives back. So I wish you well with the homework exercise. In the meantime, I want to thank you again for spending part of your day, your time with me here at the Vitality Project. It's much appreciated. I hope that you'll stay safe. Please be well, and come back and join me again here soon. I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.